Welcome to A Century of Cinema. Today I will be exploring my favourite films of 1953. First up is Niagara, directed by Henry Hathaway. It stars Joseph Cotten and Marilyn Monroe as George and Rose Loomis, a troubled couple apparently hoping to rekindle their relationship at Niagara Falls. However, it turns out Rose has a lover and is plotting with him to kill George. Another couple staying in the next cabin, Polly and Ray Cutler, played by Gene Peters and Max Showalter, unwittingly become entwined with their tumultuous neighbours. Well, mainly Polly. Roy is pretty much just there. When George is apparently killed, Polly and Roy console Rose, and it is soon revealed that it was in fact Rose's lover who died, and not George. Rose is now terrified, correctly assuming that George is out for revenge, despite his protestations to Polly that he just wants to get away and let everyone believe him dead. This is one of Marilyn Monroe's first starring roles, and probably my favourite of her movies. From this point on, she would largely be cast in the part of the bimbo, but I love her as the femme fatale. I wish she'd had more opportunities for roles like this, because I think she's excellent in Niagara. Joseph Cotten, as usual, also turns in an excellent performance as the depressed, shell-shocked, deranged George Loomis, and Gene Peters is very good as Polly, acting as essentially the audience surrogate. Niagara also has a top-notch original screenplay by producer Charles Brackett with Richard L. Breen and Walter Reich. Vibrant, well-drawn characters and a compelling story, all this set in one of the most beautiful places on earth, exquisitely shot by cinematographer Joseph MacDonald, starring one of the most beautiful people on earth, who was also exquisitely shot. Niagara Falls and the character of Rose seem to mirror each other. Both extremely beautiful, but also downright dangerous. Ida Lupino's The Hitch-Hiker stars Edmund O'Brien and Frank Lovejoy as Roy Collins and Gilbert Bowen, two friends heading out on a fishing trip who, after picking up a hitchhiker, are taken hostage and told to drive him to Mexico. The hitchhiker turns out to be notorious killer Emmett Myers, played by William Talman. As the police try to find the three men, Myers delights in psychologically torturing Collins and Bowen during their journey. All the performances are excellent. Frank Lovejoy's Bowen is the more cautious and timid of the hostages, where O'Brien's Collins is more antagonistic and daring. But the standout is William Talman as Emmett Myers. Fans of the old Perry Mason TV series will recognise Talman as D.A. Hamilton Berger, or perhaps they won't, since Myers is that character's polar opposite. He is cruel, grotesque, cowardly, and entirely without mercy. He is one of the most despicable characters in film history, and Talman commits to that 100%. He is completely believable as a remorseless killer. And I think some of the credit for that rests with the film's director, Ida Lupino. Unfortunately, Lupino would not direct many more features, but she went on to take the helm of many TV episodes for quite a while. But it is The Hitch-Hiker which stands out as her best work as a director. Her earlier films were smaller, simpler, issue-based affairs, but when she seized the opportunity to helm a noir picture, she really showed what she could do. From very early on, she sets the tension level at 11 and doesn't let up for more than a few brief moments, while still retaining the simplicity and sensitivity of her earlier films. Clocking in at a tight 71 minutes, The Hitchhiker is a tightly paced masterclass in noir filmmaking. That's why Ida Lupino is my choice for Best Director of 1953. Ingmar Bergman's Sommaren med Monika, Summer with Monica, stars Harriet Anderson and Lars Ekborg as Monica and Harry, two young people who meet and fall in love. Both are discontented with their lives. Monica is constantly harassed at work and abused at home, and Harry doesn't feel appreciated or that he's living up to his potential in his menial job. When Monica leaves home, she runs to Harry and begs him to let her stay with him. They decide to take Harry's father's boat and sail away together. They then spend an idyllic summer together, up to the point where Monica falls pregnant and the food starts running out. They decide to go back to the city and be responsible. Harry thrives as a husband, father, and breadwinner with his new, more fulfilling job, but Monika quickly becomes dissatisfied. She has no interest in this mundane and simple life and refuses to be a parent, and even cheats on Harry. Samara and Monika has many classic Bergman-esque touches. It is stunning to look at and very well written, yet it is the performances of the two leads, Anderson and Ekborg, which really sets it apart. Harry Anderson is masterful at playing the happy-go-lucky, carefree, lovable Monika and the bitter, angry, deceitful nightmare she becomes. Yet when that change comes, somehow you're not really surprised. The seeds were planted early in the performance. And Lars Ekborg, while the more passive one of the pair, gradually, subtly becomes the focus, and when he breaks down, we're right there with him. The performances are further enhanced by the way Anderson and Ekborg play off each other. They make each other better. So Lars Ekborg and Harriet Anderson are my choices for Best Actor and Best Actress. Finally, it's House of Wax. Vincent Price stars as Professor Henry Jarrett, a master creator of wax figures. When his business partner, dissatisfied with the bottom line, burns down Jarrett's museum for the insurance money, Jarrett appears to be killed in the fire. But sometime later, a gruesomely disfigured man begins killing people and taking their bodies. Yeah, it's Jarrett. We all know it's him. We soon discover that Jarrett, now in a wheelchair, but, not really because we know he's the killer, and unable to create the wax figures himself due to his damaged hands, has the work done by his apprentices. A young woman named Sue, played by Phyllis Kirk, narrowly escaped the killer after discovering that her friend Kathy, a pre-Morticia Carolyn Jones, has been murdered. She later visits the Wax Museum and notices that the representation of Joan of Arc looks exactly like Kathy. Jared explains this away, and then becomes fascinated with Sue because she looks just like his Marie Antoinette, his masterpiece, which was destroyed in the fire. Okay, so that'll do for plot, because even though it's not exactly full of mind-blowing twists, the way it is handled is fun and thrilling. House of Wax is a remake of 1933's The Mystery of the Wax Museum, which was also based on a story called The Waxworks. And that's also pretty good, by the way. But in my opinion, House of Wax is the superior movie. It was one of the first movies made in 3D, and though I have never seen it that way, I think it looks like it would be one of the better ones, even by today's standards. A couple of 3D bits are clearly just thrown in and a bit gimmicky, but mostly it doesn't enslave itself to the format. It focuses on being an incredibly well-made, well-told story, full of cheeky humour, gruesome imagery, and overt titillation. Well, for the 50s at least. Which is a blueprint for a great horror movie. Plus, you have Vincent Price at his coolly deranged best, and a pretty decent supporting cast, with Carolyn Jones stealing the few scenes in which she appears alive, and a menacing, mute early performance by Charles Bronson, credited as Charles Buczynski, his real name. And on top of all that, it just looks amazing. Price's makeup is terrifying, and those wax figures are nothing short of spectacular. That scene where they melt in the fire is truly chilling and disturbing. I think I appreciate this movie more every time I see it. So House of Wax is my choice of Best Picture of 1953. Join me next time on A Century of Cinema, when I will be discussing my favourite films of 1954. Now go watch a horror movie.